Bless you. Coming right now from Acura Broadcasting Network. Let me explain something to you about Africa and about Libya in a very brief analogy. A brief analogy. There was a neighborhood, and in that neighborhood, there was the meanest, wildest junkyard dog chained to a fence in the neighborhood. The dog was so dangerous that anyone that came near that dog would bite. He would bite ferociously, viciously. In fact, he was so vicious that he even killed a couple of people in that neighborhood. Other neighborhoods heard about this vicious dog, and they said to themselves that it's not right that such a vicious dog is allowed to be in such a neighborhood. They came from their neighborhood and they killed that vicious dog in that neighborhood. They celebrated. They said to the people in the neighborhood, "We have liberated you. This dog can no longer cause such fear and terror. You're welcome." Well, a few days later, they heard that that neighborhood, the violence had increased. Home invasions had increased. Criminal behavior had increased. The behavior of the neighborhood became so unbearable that no one in the neighborhood could contain the criminal behavior, the violence, the unadulterated wickedness that was going on in that neighborhood. And a member from that other community that came and so-called vindicated and caused that neighborhood to be reprieved of their dog and killed and helped in killing their dog. They came back and they said, "What happened? We killed the dog. What happened? What we killed this dog and you guys should have been okay." They said no. They said no. Because what you did is you killed the only thing that caused people to be afraid in this neighborhood. Now nobody's afraid to break in a house. Nobody's afraid to rob anybody. Nobody's afraid to do any level of criminal behavior because you killed the one dog that caused everybody to be afraid. Gaddafi was that dog in Libya. Gaddafi was the individual who caused every individual in Libya to act right. He was the gatekeeper of Libya. He also was being paid by other neighborhoods to make sure that African migration into their countries never happened. Billions of dollars over the course of approximately 20 years was Gaddafi paid to keep Africans out of Europe. That was his job. Now you've killed the dog. And now Libya is a crazy zone. And now what has to happen is the West, that neighborhood from afar, needs to mind their own business. Needs to stay out of African business. That's number one. Number two, Africa needs to take care of its own house. The African Union. This is your time to show the world that you don't need other foreign powers coming to Africa. This is a time to demonstrate that African lives matter. It is a time to show that nations like Nigeria and Ghana are first world nations, that you are in the 21st century. It is a time to come together as a coalition of which you are supposed to be, the African Union, and to go into Libya and get your citizens, to go to the coasts of Italy and send boats and save the people who are drowning by the thousands and take them back home. And individuals who are sitting in Europe, who are sending their loved ones in Africa pictures of your so-called great life, you need to stop it right now. You need to stop fueling this massive exodus of African brain power, of African resources, of people, and sending them to Europe to be treated like second-class citizens anyway. They're dying on the way there. And you guys need to cut it out. The AU, it's your time. It's a call to order for the African Union countries. If you fail this test, history will speak against you. The murder and the blood of thousands of individuals and the depreciation of the black race across the world will again plummet to the basement of human minds because Africa refused to stand up for Africans.